Hello again, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Ariel Helwani Meets. I, of course, am Ariel Helwani, and you know who that man is. He is one half of the main event. WrestleMania 39 goes down this Sunday. You can watch it, of course, on BT Sport Box Office. He's the American Nightmare. He's the man who's about to become the undisputed champ, dare I say.
Wow.
Yeah, that's what I think. He's Cody Rhodes. Hello, Cody. How are you?
I'm really good. I'm really calm. I don't know why it's important that I tell everyone.
I appreciate that. You have a calmness coming out of you, like a Zen-like.
I'm refusing to allow myself to get stressed out. I walked into the green room at the hotel, and just all the legends are starting to collect. You know, it's that day of the week where everyone's getting in town, and there's a bazillion people checking credentials, and 25 talent relations people and all this, and I just turned right back around and walked back to my bus. I don't want any of that. I'm just gonna sit in peace, be quiet, get to SoFi, try and execute, try and do something magical, something that lasts forever here. But yeah, I'm just trying to keep this stress low. That's why my voice is so.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that.
No one in here has stressed me out, and it's like I'm planning on it. I don't know.
Have you always been that way?
No, so I'd been away for 7 years. Prior to that, the reason the Zen is what we're trying to approach here is I was probably the worst at letting all this get to me. I remember I tore up a hotel room in Miami once when I was wrestling Big Show for the Intercontinental title. I don't know. It's such an anxious, crazy, wild week filled with all kinds of stresses and just trying to get everything right. Plus, everyone brings their family to WrestleMania, and this is like the main event. I want my family to be here, so if they're gonna be here, I'm gonna make sure I got everything covered, right? Everything covered. Got to pick up my daughter today and see her when she got to the hotel. No stress. Yeah,
You've come a long way.
I've tried. Yeah, no, that's the whole journey here as far as I've banked all this experience, and not just wrestling experience, life experience, management experience. I can write a format. I can read a true minute by minute, not the ones they put online. I can scale a arena. All this fun stuff.
Right.
This is the only place it's any use. So hopefully I can do all that while I'm here.
So it's interesting because when you came in, I said to you, "Man, you've been everywhere. Are you tired of talking? You've been talking. Like I feel like you've been the guy promoting this, right? There's a lot more of you than there is of Roman Reigns out there."
Yeah, he doesn't really need to, right?
I mean, he's still a part of the main event, and I'm not trying to rag on him, but then I wondered, after saying that, this is what you've always wanted, right? You've always wanted the spotlight. You've always wanted to be the guy to promote WrestleMania, the main event of WrestleMania. So you're probably relishing this.
Absolutely, and if I find myself ever like, oh, that's an early morning, like my brother texted me earlier, he's like, how you doing out there? And part of me wanted to be like, oh, so much media, so much this, but even to sit in that would make me, are you kidding? Like you did all this work to get here and be here. You should relish in it and enjoy it.
So here we are talking just a couple of days before WrestleMania. You're competing on Sunday. Do you remember what you were doing a couple of days before last year's WrestleMania? Compare this guy that we're talking to today to the one from 365 days ago.
Well, last year we were, I decided WWE was going to fly me in on WWE's plane to some private jet spot, and gonna hide me out, but we still needed the bus, so I just thought, why don't we just take the bus? I was in Georgia at the time. We'll take the bus halfway across the country, have kind of a road trip out of it, and that's how the days were filled. It was great because we were outside of the massive fandom coming in, so there wasn't any pictures of me or anything like that, even though it was pretty everyone was well aware it would be me. I think there's an obviousness to Mania. Sometimes it's a good obviousness.
Right.
So yeah, I was literally just traveling across country and learning. I kind of think of my bus like the Millennium Falcon, and the bad parts of the Millennium Falcon is what I mean. This thing has a lot of issues. But it's so charming, right? It's gonna get me and nobody's bus is more in use than me and Seth Rollins. We're everywhere, it seems like. So we were finding that out as that was my first experience, like setting it all up, because it's a home for me, Libby, and Brandy, and that was all there. And the next thing you know, I was literally in AT&T Stadium. I woke up in it.
Were you zen, or were you nervous?
No, I was zen.
Yeah?
I was, and I made a point to get my gear on early, because I knew they'd be like, well, we got to get to the, because I wasn't even going through Gorilla. So I knew that they would be like, we got to get him in this golf cart and get him there, probably long before I ever needed to be there. I was there for most of Bianca and Becky's match, just under the stage, hearing it.
Why couldn't you go through Gorilla?
Because I was coming up the deal, yeah. So I knew I'm not going to see anyone until I come back. All these people who I work with and work for now, I'm not going to see them until I come back. So I was in though, put my gear on early. Didn't want to be one of these wrestlers who's always. You've in these interviews, you might have found a couple like this, but there's some wrestlers who are always overcoming something. Oh, they're so stressed out. Oh, the schedule, this and that, and just after doing this for as long as I've been doing it, just be prepared.
Did you know that this was the story then? Like, did you know this will come in? It feels like this is the culmination of the story that I know started many years ago, but like this particular chapter feels like it's WrestleMania to WrestleMania, right? The debut.
Oh.
Did you know that this was going to happen in the back of your mind? No?
It feels like that, and it's serendipitous like that, whereas I talked about the title the day after Mania, and that was specifically a mission statement for my whole time, the entire contract duration. I would be here, but I wasn't told that was the plan. I didn't see it as the plan, and I think there was a good amount of people in management who really wanted to see me succeed, but weren't sure I was going to. There was like a hold us who that wouldn't have mind if I slipped and fell hard on my face, because here's the guy who waved another flag really hard for quite some time. If he came here and just blew it, that would be,
You felt that within the company?
I didn't feel it. Maybe it was my own. I was saying this in an interview the other day, and I think it didn't get misprinted. I think people might have took it differently. Coming back here was a far bigger gamble than All In. Far bigger gamble. All In, the only gamble was the day of the ticket sales, and then we still had months. So if we could have not got the 10,000, but we got the 11,236 in like 29 minutes. So we're good. With this, when I say it's a bigger gamble, is telling Vince McMahon you're the best wrestler in the world. If you don't show up and if you're not cracking the top 3, top 4 people in terms of every measurable they have, then you lied to them. So that's what I mean by it was a far bigger gamble. I played the cards that I not only should be here, I should be here at the utmost top level, and so far it has worked out.
Sometimes when someone gets, for lack of a better word, like pushed and heavily pushed, Roman can tell you all about this, right? The fans initially love it, but then they reject it.
Yeah.
Have you ever in the past year been, and I know you had the layoff, obviously, which probably helped because absence makes the heart grow fonder. Were you at all worried about the fans rejecting it?
No, but also maybe I'm always naturally worried about the temperature. The temperature in the room is different everywhere you go. Vegas and just West Coast in general they look at Roman and the Usos, rightfully so, as huge stars. And every time the Usos came out, because I had been doing a lot of tags with the Usos, that's star power that I feel like I did not know about, but because I've been so focused on Roman, it takes a minute to, oh man, these guys are pulling the wagon here. They're the top guys. And when you feel that and hear it, even if it's one guy or if it's a pocket of 5 or 10, you just got to be aware of it. Not everyone's going to love what you're doing. There's an audience here for me that's different than the audience I had prior. With AEW, it was mainly, I'd say like college age, or just the long time, like the hardcore fans. Whereas here, there's so many kids, and that's a different responsibility to them. And I hope I'm doing it justice. I know what you're talking about in the past with pushes and such, that where it's so heavy-handed that the crowd can get a little restless with it. But I feel like you won't see a lot of that today because there's other places people can go wrestle now. You don't have to just tune into the one thing and this is it, this is all we get. There's other pizza places out there, I suppose. So maybe you won't see that, but this is, again, I feel like in this moment I'm starting to talk myself into hey, if it goes wrong, but no, I haven't had I've seen that. I'm not concerned about it, but if the moment, like the temperature changes, then I would.
What do you prefer, babyface or heel Cody?
I definitely prefer being on the light side of things and being more in the good guy realm, I think if you're going to be a bad guy today, you have to really be a bad guy. And I'll give you an example. And man, if anybody is listens to this interview and like this is the one part, keep it all in what I'm saying, because I'm not lying to you.
Please, yeah.
The number one thing a heel is supposed to do is take something away. That's what you do. The crowd wants to see something. Oh, they're stomping their feet, they're clapping their hands, and you take it away. And then you have to know when to give it to them, of course, but you take it away. The last heel run I had, the number one thing they wanted me to do was turn heel. So the number one thing I could do was say, I'm never going to turn heel, which makes me a heel. And if people need like further proof of that this wasn't some revisionist history, look at the matches I was having. I'm bumping and feeding. Yeah, we throw the weight belt out in the crowd and it gets thrown back. And then we do a dog pile spot 30 seconds later. Those aren't things that you just do on the fly. But maybe it was a bit too nuanced for any audience, and maybe it's a scenario where I just swing and miss. You never know, because I think people thought I really was adamant about not turning, and that's not a real thing. You have to go with what they give you. And they had 2 years of wonderful babyface hoorah, and that was a nice way to go there at the end. Here, though, I really don't love the idea of being a heel here. I don't know. But hey, something could present itself, and what you put out there is, so I don't know. I haven't thought about it at all. And it's different too, because I mentioned this younger audience. I don't want to, if they believe, I got to stick to that, right? More than a smaller section of the audience, if that makes any sense.
I know that the pec injury was devastating, and it's not easy to come back from that. But I'm wondering though, if in some ways it was a blessing, because you did disappear for several months, and then you came back right when WrestleMania season starts, and then you have this red hot run for 3 months. Had you been around June, July, August,
You think I would have
September,
slowed down?
I just wonder, do you think you would have?
I feel like you think I would have slowed down.
No, I'm just wondering, absence makes the heart grow fonder, and everyone missed you as you were, on fire.
Yep. I get it in terms of I came back at the perfect time. Like it'll be like it's hot, and then like naturally it's going to cool down.
Yeah.
The only thing I can say is whatever happened at WrestleMania last year, just the general feeling of that return and what it created, I don't know if it would have if it would have tempered. I don't know. I really don't. I'd like to say, hey, the challenge is keep it hot. I think I was up to the challenge. And a lot of that is from the only reason I know how to field it, know how to navigate it. And I think had I stuck around, I don't recall in terms of every step of the direction. I think had I stuck around, no pec injury, I think we'd still be here.
Okay.
I said that to Mr. Heyman in the ring, and this is one of those moments where it got very real for a second. I heard about all these people that Roman was going to wrestle this year. I heard about all these people. It was always going to be me. And that's just to me. To me, I felt like it was always going to be me. Like there wasn't a plan laid out by anybody other than me. I just couldn't see myself going for anything less. You come out after WrestleMania and you talk about winning the title. Well, that should be where you go, and that's where we stand Sunday, an opportunity to win this thing that the old man couldn't win, and the thing I could never win.
And so, I believe that. I believe that you believe that. And I think most people believed it as well. And I think when it was time to get ready for you to return, and Royal Rumble was like, oh, it's right there. He's going to win Rumble. He's going to go to Mania. He's going to be the guy to beat Roman Reigns. But then a funny thing happened over the summer. This guy who competed against Johnny Knoxville last year at WrestleMania got super hot and became a huge babyface in his own right. Shades of Mick Foley was, right? Sami Zayn, the everyman. And then all of a sudden we get to Montreal and there's this actual doubt. Is he going to win in Montreal in the February pay-per-view or premium live event before WrestleMania? Were you at all worried that this unexpected thing was going to screw up all the plans?
No. Watching was fun because, believe it or not, I don't like to know a lot, and I was watching that like everybody else, thinking that my WrestleMania opponent could be Sami Zayn. I just looked at it as if it's a big tidal wave and it's moving, then it becomes a triple threat. We even talked about that. No big deal. I prefer a singles match, but it wouldn't bother me. It's you got to give them what they want. There's, everybody who loves this collective thing that involves a wrestling ring is in town. You got to give them what they want.
As an old school fan of this business, right? I mean, you grew up with this business. It is pretty damn cool that the tag titles are so important right now.
Thank God, yeah.
Also, that they're tied to the heavyweight title, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's very rare that there's that connection. Dare I say, the most important tag match since WrestleMania 1, and the only time, if they headline night 1, the only time that the tag titles have ever headlined WrestleMania. Yeah. But then if there's a scenario where if they win, if KO and Sami win, and the Usos drop the belt, and then you win on Sunday, now all of a sudden we have a situation where the bloodline is in shambles, and the good guys hold all the cards. Like, this is fun stuff.
It's very fun. And I'm glad you bring up the tag team aspect of it, because how long have people wanted the tag teams to be this thing? Hey, and a tag division is only as strong as the players in it. And you have, again, the Usos. I think people forget how, when the Usos come out, not just Roman, top guys. And that's not a term I use loosely. Absolutely. So the fact that they're the biggest match of the weekend, in my mind, the biggest match of the weekend is Roman versus myself. But I'm sure there's plenty of fans out there who think the biggest match is the tag title match. Great problem to have. Also, we got 2 nights. So an amazing thing. And if we end up in a situation where all the Usos, all the Samoans leave this thing beltless, that creates an absolutely just pandemonium-filled Monday at Crypto. So I'll be watching. I'm excited to watch on Saturday. Cena starting the show. You have no idea how that feels for me. He came to my school and he told me, he's like, I'm match number 1. And I got to tell him, I'm the main event. So I got to, this guy who I idolize, I got to reply with, well, I'm last, and that was a really cool moment. So you're heading in. What did the kids say? We're really cooking now, or like you hear that all the time. Let them cook. Are people saying that?
Yes, they are saying that. Cooking with gas.
People say I keep seeing like that we're cooking with the card. The card's amazing. It's 2 nights, freaking WrestleMania, and you're feeling it because you're like half in, half out here. You're indoctrinated in this family. There's something very special that's not just WrestleMania going on here. Sami eliminated, that wasn't WrestleMania. Something crazy. If you look at the March and even before March, the measurables from last year, it's not just Mania season. There's a thing happening in the air, and we are being able to ride this wave, and it's just really, really fun.
So this is WrestleMania 39. You're headlining. You're trying to make history. Almost exactly 10 years to the day. Was WrestleMania 29. Do you remember WrestleMania 29?
MetLife?
Yeah.
Yeah, I do.
Do you remember what happened?
Well, there's a part that happened that people may not know. You're referring to my match getting cut.
Yes. At the 11th hour, right?
So it did get cut at the 11th hour, but after some, Jesse Ventura style like conspiracy theory on it, I don't think the match was ever supposed to happen, because they were filming Total Divas at the time, and that was a big plot thread. That makes me more mad. Did you not know this? No, right? If I'm like a lamb to slaughter for Total Divas, which people liked Total Divas. It's still like the standard in terms of when you do these wrestling reality shows. But yeah, I would have been more, let me in. Let me make a scene, let me be part of that. I want to be in on that. But here's the thing that people don't know. Our match got cut. Vince stood up. He told us, hey guys, we got to do it tomorrow. And what I hated the most was everyone in there was like, all right, yeah. And I just was staring a hole through him. I knew I couldn't like fist fight him. I'm not, obviously that wasn't on my mind, but I didn't want him to think I was happy. I didn't want him to think like, oh cool, it's just the biggest event that we have every year that we're all ready to rock for isn't gonna happen. It made me not like P. Diddy too, because he had a musical performance and it was real long, and I thought we could have done the match in the beginning of this freaking musical thing. But either way, so afterwards I stare a hole through him. I'm very upset. I'm sure he could have cared less. I go and sit under the stage because I just didn't want to like freak out, right? You don't want to lash out at anybody. People are doing their jobs, like working hard, and Mania's moving on with or without me. So I went and sat under the stage, and I felt like I'm looking down. I felt this foot kick my foot, and I look up, and it was Donald Trump.
Wow.
Because he was walking back, and he had his whole posse had been with him for, I think that's the year he won the Hall of Fame.
Okay.
And so he's walking back, and he's like, "Excuse me, young man." So I had to like shimmy my legs to the side for these 50 people that he had with him to go by. But yeah, that was my, I had to get out of the way for Donald. It was kind of a sobering moment, like, hey, you know, life is moving on.
I thought you were going to say like someone hit your foot and was like, "Chin up, kid, everything's going to be okay."
No, it was just Donald
This guy
Trump.
literally like walking right over you.
No, it was just Donald Trump who needed to walk. Literally, he would have walked over me. So, yeah,
that
so
like what-
it was more of it's when it rains it pours type
Yes.
thing. Like, yeah, it wasn't like a, hey, you'll get him next time. I think at that point, it was chaos backstage already, but I wasn't part of the chaos because Total Divas was capturing all the sadness of the match getting cut.
But what about that symbolism that you're just a pawn in a Total Divas potential storyline, and here you are 10 years later, almost to the day, headlining? That guy wouldn't have believed any of this, right? Like that must have been rock bottom.
Yeah, that wasn't rock bottom, but that certainly was close. And that was during that period where I was telling my dad, I was thinking I should quit. And that's finally around the time he's like, "Yeah, you should. And he kind of called my bluff on it. It was like, "Well, no, I want to make it work." You know, then I really, wanted to make it work. Matt Cardona and I are the exact same. We set these weird timelines, like, okay, but by next Mania, I'm not doing something. Then I'll quit. And it's never. Now I tell people all the time, don't set a timeline. Just go or don't go. But yeah, I just wanted to make it work. But that was close to rock bottom.
What was rock bottom?
Great question. I am careful with how I answer this. It's all Stardust related, which they revealed a new figure for Stardust.
Wow. How do you feel about that?
I said it was okay.
Okay.
No big deal. I just wanted to make sure they picked the outfits where I was less fat. Because there was a period of time where I got kind of fat in the Stardust suit. So there was then a period of time where I tried to get really in great shape, and that's where I cut the sleeves off the suit. So please use those.
Okay.
And they did, so good on Mattel.
Why do you have to be careful?
No, I just, there was a lot of rock bottom. There's specifically, I told this story, but I hate telling you stories that you might have already heard. Charlotte Flair brought a fan to a show. She told him, like, "Hey, do you want to meet Stardust?" And I was just not painted up or anything there earlier in the day, and like my sweats. And he came up to me, he was like, "You're Stardust?" I was like, yeah. And I used to wrestle as Cody Rhodes. And he was like, "What? Who? What do you mean?" He had no idea that I had won the Intercontinental title or won some tag titles or legacy, nothing. Stardust was his only knowledge of me. And that was a rock bottom moment. And that was actually one of those big time, I need to get out. Because your legacy, no one's ruining your legacy at that point other than you. If you're not making any changes, you got to get out and change your legacy and stuff like that. Yeah.
You talked about the conversation you had with your late father, the great Dusty Rhodes. Were you actually close to ever quitting? Or was that all just, was all that talk? Like, did you actually really consider quitting?
No, I don't think I did. I think it was all talk. And then I think talk needed to become action, and that's why it happened so quick when it happened. I was driving Brand to the airport is when it happened. I was driving her to the airport. I had already told Mark Carano at the time, he said, "I'll see you next week." I said, "No, you won't." But that even might have been all talk. I just wrestled freaking Matt Cardona for the 50th time. Where the finish, by the way, when we asked what the finish was, the answer was, "Doesn't matter." So I thought, okay, all right. Anyways, I was driving to the airport and I just told her, I was like, "I'm gonna drop you off. I'm not going." And then I called him and told him I wasn't gonna be there, and phone must have rang a million times, and next thing you know, it was just over and done with. Yeah, no. I should have acted earlier on those impulses, or, at that time, I don't know how old I was, but, just the drama that I was kind of going through, Dad had passed, stuff like that. I probably mental health, the mental health you hear all the time today, and like, I'm a big, subscriber of going to therapy and talking to somebody and actually understanding what's going on within you, and I hope others can do that and understand that. I wasn't doing that at the time, so I wasn't able to really just take my issues and move forward in a productive way. They were wallowing, and when you wallow and you let it all build up, it boils, it explodes. And to a degree, I'm lucky that it kind of exploded, because that was what the American Nightmare would be, and that's where all that angst came from and all that anger. Now I'm sitting here as calm as could possibly be, ready to just finish the damn story, man.
And did you ever consider quitting the business, period?
I say that maybe. I looked into getting a degree, because I didn't go to college. It was a BTE joke we used to make all the time. And I thought, I can do that, and then I'll have this plan B, which I never was a plan B guy. I don't know, are you a plan B guy?
Not really.
Right?
Yeah, just kind of go for it.
Okay, yeah, you just got to go for it, and you have to. That's always me. So the idea of a plan B is just even if something you like and you could be passionate about and you would like, it still feels like a failure,
right,
if you enter the plan B territory. Right. So I never did that.
Did you ever talk to a therapist?
Yeah, I talked to 4 days ago.
Oh,
yeah,
really?
No, I don't know if that's what we. Yeah, I'm a big believer in.
Since when? When did you start that?
I started that after my dad passed away, and my mom is a big believer in that, and I was just kind of toxic and alpha, and no, I'm not going to do that. And then of course now it's a big part of what we do.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is a tough game, right?
Yeah.
Like this. Look at the stakes for this weekend. So much money is on the line. I found out $20 million of sponsorship are wrapped around WrestleMania. Stakes are really high. Emotions are really high. Tempers are high. Egos are a huge deal. You got to be able to, if you can't navigate that all within yourself, you can't help navigate it anywhere else. So it's been very helpful for me.
I almost want to preface this with an apology, because I feel like it's somewhat cheap, but because he has been mentioned in the build-up, your father, by Paul Heyman and others.
Yeah.
I am wondering if you have thought in this process what he would think of all of this.
I think he would, I can't say. I think I might have told you the story about how he hated that Eddie Guerrero's name was used. I really don't think my dad would even understand how we got here. The amount of explanation that would be needed to give to him to explain what happened, it's too much. It would be too much. And I think the only thing he would care about is, Dakota, Dustin's daughter, just had a baby, and I have Liberty, and he never met Liberty. I don't really think he would care about anything else going on in the wrestling space, in the sports entertainment space. And the reason being, I could barely get him to come do those things, the last few things he did. Barely. He was a big believer in, they've seen me, I want them to remember me that way. He wanted to be young. That was a big thing that was very real with him. He always wanted to be young. And I don't think he'd have a bearing either way on what using his name or not. And I think it also relates to the fact that the people talking about him really do know him. If one of the male models, great guys, I watched one of their matches the other day. It was actually phenomenal. If one of them started talking about Dusty, well, that's just cheap and nonsense, and don't do that, please. But he did. And Mr. Heyman's 14 years old, trying to sneak into his production meeting, pretending to be a photographer, and he lets him sit in there. Roman is someone that was in the communications class, or the promo class, but he liked to call it communications. They have a real ownership of him. That's why I like that we've named them all. Becky, Bayley, Kevin, Sami, Roman. There's a few others. Other people come up to me at TV like, I had a good relationship with him too. I'm like, that's whatever. It's hard to keep track, but they have ownership of him. They can do what they want. They have their own unique ownership of him. I mean. So
when you say finish the story, you're really not just referring to your own story. You're referring to his story too. Is that fair?
I think so. I mean, the story of me wanting to win that title and give it to him is very real. That was how do you give somebody who has everything, anything? You give them something they don't have. That was the thing he didn't have, and I think it sharpened for me a lot the wanting to get the title he never got his hands on. I think it sharpened for me a lot over the course of the bad period in his career. This is pre-CW, where all of a sudden, you know, like the things that are being written about him and the credits being taken away and then credits being given to him for stuff maybe Jim Herd did and just like RoboCop, stuff like that. I know that really hurt him, and he was of the type that he wasn't going to sell it because he'd had his run. He'd had it, and he did feel validated by years of wonderful fans and a great experience. But when that happened, it really sharpened me as a kid as far as, well, I want to make sure I get this thing. And get this thing could mean a lot of things.
Right.
I do this, and they know that, you know, Dusty's involved. I do this, and Dusty's involved. And now we're at a situation where wrestling for a title that he literally just held in his hands for 90 seconds before the referee took it away. Yeah.
Did he ever tell you that it really bothered him that he never got that one?
In his own way, yes. The conversation, the promo I did after Raw is real, but I left out parts where he was really not into the fact that how I asked him. Because how I asked him, were you WWF champion like Hulk Hogan, is how I asked him. He didn't love that question.
Why not?
Because Hulk Hogan, and this is something that I'm so glad is part of the Dusty documentary, Hulk Hogan was a huge fan of my dad's. I didn't know that as a kid. And when your dad tells you that, you kind of don't believe it. You kind of think he's rubbing off. I'm going to, you know, Blockbuster and getting these Coliseum videos, and I'm digging everything Hulk, Warrior, Macho. This is what I'm into. This is what I like. He didn't love that. So during that moment when I asked him, he explained to me that Hulk was a young boy that Hiro Matsuda trained and was coming to Championship Wrestling from Florida every week and was the biggest Dusty fan and took a lot of the things that he's told me he took a lot of the things which Hulk talks about in the documentary, which is amazing. And today we're doing it full circle. I'm wearing a weight belt out there. I got a shirt that's at the store right now. That's a LA WrestleMania, I don't want to say parody shirt, but it's modeled after Hogan waving the flag. We just added Pharaoh at my feet. It's a whole new thing. But yeah, that was his way of kind of letting me know that I don't think he wished he had, because the opportunity was there to stay, and Vince wanting to do the big expansion. I think he wished more people knew that what him and Superstar did in the Garden was a huge deal.
So I asked you about like how crazy your life is now and all the interviews and the media, and you're doing a lot of the promotion. But that being said, you're not in management, right? And I saw an interview that you did recently where, and I had not heard you say this, where you said that in retrospect you were a little too immature to be in that spot that you were in AEW.
Yeah.
Is that true?
I told Rich that, right?
Yeah, Rich Eisen.
I don't think that's true. I think that's my kind of my way of putting the heat on myself.
Why? Why would you say that?
So if you put the heat on yourself, no one else can. I could have been so much better if I just focused on one thing. So I used the word immature, and maybe that is correct. I just think it was too young for it.
You still have a lot of friends there. I'm wondering if any of them check in on you and say like, so what's it like on the other side of the fence? Do you feel like you're fielding a lot of those questions? Maybe not now, but early on?
I kind of am generic with the advice I give, if that makes any sense. I don't get specific with anybody. No one has reached out flat out and said, how can I get there and what do I need to do? Most of it's been, hey, this is great, but can you still watch my promo from Dark and tell me if it was any good? Most of it's that stuff, which is, oh, sure, great, I can help with that. But thankfully, I haven't been put in that situation where somebody flat out says, hey, can you get me a conversation, or can you get me in this room? Because I'd have to say no. That's just too morally of an icky area for me. I'd have to deflect, send them somewhere else, just because they're going to find their own way here, or there, or elsewhere, on their own and on their own talent.
I'd be remiss if I don't ask you, and I'm very curious to hear what you have to say about this. I know that there's someone in particular in that locker room who has a very close relationship with you and thinks the world of you. And in fact, I do believe you helped bring him there. His contract is coming up January 1st of 2024. We're about half a year away from that. You know who I'm talking about? Maxwell Jacob Friedman.
Yeah.
Do you think he could be a big star in WWE?
I think he'd be a big star anywhere. I think he has all the tools because he's so young. He has all the tools to develop, and you're not seeing his final form yet. His final form is probably going to be 10 years from now. I'm like, that's who he is. But that all depends on if he sticks to the good side of this and doesn't lose his head and ego doesn't get too big. I'm just talking about the man, not the character, and still has a passion. Sometimes your passion can wane. We're talking about rock bottom earlier. Sometimes your passion can wane, and he's one of the most passionate people I've ever met. So if he keeps the passion, sure. Adjustments wise to come here, he's already doing it, but as you see him, like he's putting on some, I don't know if musculature is the word, we're going to say it is.
Yeah.
But if you're going to develop and put on muscle, because you have to here, because what happens if you don't, you're standing across from Drew McIntyre and you're going to look like a clown, because that guy's a monster. You have to, and sometimes it's not, sometimes it's in presentation. You know, it's okay if you got a little heel in your boot, you know what I'm saying? Like you've got to do all those things, and that might be one thing that he'd have to work on a little bit, is just to make sure that he's not considered small. I don't think he's small, but just that be a thing. But no, if that happens for him, great. I don't know if it would or if it would.
I'm not asking for inside info, but
I don't have any.
Would you like to see it happen?
I'll give you a bad answer. If it makes him happy, I want him to be happy. That's honestly it. If it makes him happy, I want him to be happy. Also, like, so my career is my thing, right? I have a nice team of people around me, but at the end, it's mine. One thing I've noticed about him, his family is very involved in what he does, and I think he is kind of, even as a young man, is kind of the de facto becoming like the patriarch of that. So when that's the case, you've got to take care of all your people too and do right by them. So if it makes him happy to be there, great. If it makes him happy to be here, he just needs to be happy.
Since we're clearing up things that you said in interviews recently,
yeah, please.
Do you really hate Seth Rollins? Do you really want to punch him in the face? What's going on here? Because this one went everywhere.
Yeah, it did. And sometimes you're like, sometimes it sucks when you do an interview and that one bite, you're like, oh, Cody goes to therapy. That's going to be the bite from this one. Like,
no, you gave us so much.
Yeah, like the bite, like the one bite, you're like, there were so many other beautiful things we talked about. I can't tell you, and if you ask Seth the same thing, I'm not going to fight Seth backstage. We're not going to walk by each other and fight each other. I'm not going to throw a water bottle at him as I walk by him, but we really do not like one another.
Do not or did not?
Do not.
Why?
And still do not. And I don't think there's a specific reason other than perhaps professional jealousy. I was very jealous of him. I watched the Heist of the Century. It's one of the most amazing WrestleMania moments of all time. And now we're in a situation where he's wrestling Logan Paul in a huge marquee matchup, and he's still, though, I'm on top of the card. So I think maybe it's shifted a bit. I can't speak for him. You might want to ask him. I like Becky. She's great and wonderful, but yeah, him and I do not like each other.
Even after what happened, in June and the magic of those 3 matches, like all that.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Maybe when we're like old men and you do like the conventions and stuff, maybe we'll finally like Pete Rose and Nolan Ryan get along these days. But I don't think they got along back in the day. I think that's kind of where we're at.
Did you feel that way last year as well?
I don't think we've ever liked one another.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and say it's just a lifelong dislike. Well, we don't say hate. No hate.
Hey.
Yeah, a lot of respect, though.
Right.
I often tell people I think he's one of the top 3 in the world. I really, really do.
Is it hard to work with someone that you feel that way about?
No. This might be a dumb thing to say. Is there anything really hard about this job in terms of...
Yes, I would say there's a lot of hard things.
Like, how lucky am I? Like, it's genuinely, how blessed. There's going to be 80,000 people or whatever we call it. There's a full SoFi Stadium, the best stadium in the world, there for this thing that we do. Giant presentation, to hear your name being said out loud, to be the center of their attention. For all the things and sacrifices that go into it, this job is too fun. I don't even know why I got onto this, but this job is too fun for me to think about how difficult it is or how the grind is. And maybe I'm still in the honeymoon period here of coming back to WWE, but it's just too fun for me to look at it as a grind or difficult or anything to that nature, or it being difficult to work with somebody. that's again, banked all this experience to be here. I've dealt with people who I don't like working with, and that makes it even special when you can do something amazing with them. That's in general, though. I'm sure you don't like any. You can't. You have way too many people in the room for this shoot, right? Literally 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's 9 people. Do you like all 9 of them?
I mean, in this case, yes, but I get what you're saying. There's a lot of people out there.
There's got to be one that's
there's like a little
that guy,
you know?
Yeah. Like in our group, like I got a group of friends. Aaron Solo is the one that's like, ugh,
There's always,
he is, you know. But then we couldn't live without him. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah.
You've known Roman for a long time. Did you ever, like, did you always believe that he would turn into this, or has he surprised you as well?
Well, I think he was presented. So you talk about the push that people don't like. I think he was presented with a situation where it wasn't a, hey, we're going to give it to you so much that you'll eventually like it. No, there was a point where he turned it, and it was right, and it was good, and that's what's happened now. I had some insults for him in the pocket for this promo exchange that we had, and it didn't get that testy or fired up, so I didn't need to say it. But I mean, Roman Reigns is a lifelong investment from WWE, and that investment started paying off like a year ago, right? But even with that stiff shot fired, it's paying off more than anybody else. Roman's the guy, right? If who are you going to want to talk to, right? You get to pick your interviews. If you get an interview with Roman, you're going to pick Roman, right?
I picked you.
Well, thank you. Well, I mean, I'm against the guy,
right.
But Roman is the definition of a WWE superstar. I keep saying this because he is the literal definition of it. If you can't figure out what that means or why people have to say superstar, or he is the definition. He checks every box. He has taken, Drew was a big part of carrying COVID as well, but he has just taken everything about that title, both titles, transformed it into a whole nother thing, created essentially a streak-like vibe around him. And here's how you know about Roman. If you see Roman walking around at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, it's different than everybody else. I mean, just if you can just get eyes on him, it's like he's walking like on a cloud. There's a presence around him that he found that wasn't given to him. He found it, he cultivated it, and the Roman you're seeing now is the best in the business because of him and because of Mr. Heyman.
Can I get one of those insults that you had in the pocket that you didn't?
No, because I got to talk to him again on SmackDown, so I got to hold on to him.
Okay, you still have a few more left in the chamber.
Yeah, because I felt like he fired one off about me not getting over in my own company.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, that was mean.
Yeah.
That was mean. But yeah, no, I got to keep a couple close to the chest. Hopefully we don't need them.
What do you think it will feel like on Sunday if, in fact, you win and you finally get that belt? Have you allowed yourself to dream of that?
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's a big part of just athletics and entertainment in a sense of visualizing. For the longest time, I was just visualizing walking down the ramp. But I think if you're really going to be there in that moment, you have to visualize what it looks like if you're taking it. And again, not a plan B guy. I'm not writing a concession speech here. I absolutely have to visualize and have to see that moment. And I see it as a celebration for me, sure. But this is something I shared with Sheamus when I did this little workout show, which was very difficult, by the way. Sheamus works very hard. I've thought a lot about all the independent wrestling scene a lot lately. And that's why they're, on the weight belt.
Beautiful.
And my time away. There's so many people who I've encountered as I've been everywhere who are at their rock bottom, right? And I want them to look at this and go, there you go. Like, that's something that people were told, no way he could bounce back. And on this day that we're talking, there's a brand new Stardust figure. Literally, rock bottom is now making money. Like, it's just surreal. None of this is lost on me. Going through, on Sunset Boulevard and seeing my head just giant, dangling over the street that the Hollywood elite go on every single day. I don't take it for granted. It's not lost on me. But I am somebody who is at absolutely the bottom. I don't even like the term I hate, jobber, because I like the term enhancement talent. I do. I think it's a better way to put it. But I was a jobber. And here I am in this moment and in this spot, and I just think about those people who think they can't come back from it. No, there's no way. And I have friends like that who are in the middle of this, maybe a slump. if you keep doing it, and if you work hard, if you find the right people, if you put your trust in quality people, if you train like an actual pro athlete, if you give yourself your own infrastructure, if you make yourself a brand, you can make yourself undeniable. And I hope it's a celebration for all of them as well, because I'm carrying a lot of people and a lot of things into this that they may not realize it, but it's just every part of the journey comes in with me on Sunday.
It's a celebration. It's an inspiration, not just to pro wrestlers, to people, right? To anyone who has fallen down and has dreamed of getting back up and wondered if they could get back up. It's a beautiful story, and I sincerely hope you get to finish that story on Sunday, my friend. All the best to you. Congrats on an incredible run up until this point, from year to year. If this is New Year's Eve in the pro wrestling world, from where we started a year ago to now, with all the ups and downs, the injury, it's incredible how it played out. So thank you so much for the time. Good luck on Sunday.
Thank you.
Can't wait to see how it plays out.
Are we going to do the dart thing?
Oh, the dart thing is going to have to be for the next one as champ.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like
think
that.
you're pressed for time.
What a good time, though. Good time.
Cody Rhodes, Sunday, WrestleMania 39, main event, going up against Roman Reigns. You can catch it only on BT Sport Box Office. What a time it will be. What a Cena will be if he gets it done. Good luck to you. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.